Greetings, Internet! On this episode of From the Basement, we're going to take a look at doing encounter waves. And by that, I mean spawning additional encounters as soon as the first set of encounters has been defeated. Now, there's two ways you can set this up. The first way, and the easiest way, is to set the encounters up in the Story tab. Remember from previous videos, encounters do not appear until you are on that objective. So, I can put in some kill enemy objectives, perhaps even in parallel if I wanted more than one to occur at once. Let's go ahead and structure it like this. So this way I would get 3 waves. I would have the first group, then both of these groups would spawn, and then this group would spawn. And that would all happen automatically. All I would have to do is go in here and drop in the encounters. Of course, I would want to be careful with my naming. So this would be group 1. And let's just call this 2A and 2B and 3. Now I can see which is which, so I can drag this in, and let's do ogres because that'll be easier to kill. So I'll come in here, orc, standard, there we go, an ogre. Single ogre, so I'll put that guy in there. Put that in. Work, standard, there we go. Grab him. Work, standard. Good. Drag that one in. Orc, standard. And of course I'm going to need my anvil to actually make sure that I can trigger this. And so now when we go in and test, this is going to automatically spawn the encounters. Let's go ahead and see what this looks like real quick. Alright, I'll come over here, use the anvil to advance to the next stage, and immediately there's one orc savage that I forgot to change the model on. It's a good point to keep in mind that just because I changed the encounter type doesn't mean that I changed the model. So I've got a kobold that's literally, an ogre. Yeah, he's got the stats of an ogre, so he's using the attacks too. So, die. And then there's those two. Die. Die. And then there's finally, there's the final one. And I get the next objective. Yay, everything is good. Return to Foundry. Yes. And just real quick, since we did run across that rather interesting bug, as I would consider it, how do we go through and change the costume? Notice that while I changed the encounter types on these, I did not change the costume. So I would want to come in here and say costume, and then choose, one of the ogre's costumes that I wanted for that. Okay, so that's sort of the really quick way, but that way forces you to have it as part of your story objectives. It's possible that you would want to do encounter waves without having the waves linked to story objectives. So for that, we're going to have to do it a little bit differently. We're going to revisit our old friend conversation and set things up that way. Let me come in here and get rid of those story elements there. Okay, so I'm going to set the conversation first. So I'm going to go to our good friend Mr. Ed, who is a horse, of course. Go into the advanced dialogue editor. We're going to put in a response that says start fight. Just give him a little text response there. in, and we'll link off of this. We'll also, just because I like tidying up conversations, I wouldn't want this to remain after I've initiated it. So I'm going to say disable dialog prompt reached, and I'm going to select that option. So as soon as we reach here, that option will be disabled, and I'm going to add in another response that we'll have to come back and set up later because we don't have the encounters yet to do our enable win command off of. So we're going to start the fight, take out the 4 encounters, and then we'll come back for this response. So it's sort of a typical scenario you might have in a quest. Alright, so again we need to drag over our encounter. So let's see here, let's look for orc standard. Of course this time they're going to have the right costume. That's the one annoying thing about story quests. You got to be really careful. It really likes to mess, if you change the encounter type, everything's still going to be kobold, so you still have to set your costume. This way, obviously, I don't have to worry about saying costume. So drag in an ogre. We will call this group Group 1. Drag in another one. I will call you Group 2A. Oops. 2A. Drag you in and call you Group 2B. And drag the last one in and call this Group 3. Now what we'll do is we'll set Group 1 to appear when dialog prompt reached, and we'll choose our option right here, as you wish. For 2B and 2A, we will set their appear or win as component complete. Remember, component complete will also trigger upon defeating an encounter. So component complete, expand this out, Group 1. And that is 2B. I will do the same for 2A, appear when, component complete, expand, Group 1. Now for the third fight, I don't want it to trigger until both A and B have been defeated for groups 2. So component complete, add a component. So I want 2 components this time for our AND logic. And 2A and 2B. Obviously I would want to go back through and rename these encounter groups to something more sensible, but again, while you're working, it's very useful to have your names set up like this. Now that we have our encounter set up, we can go revisit our conversation again real quick, and we can set response 2 to enable when component complete 3, because 3 is not going to trigger until A and B has been defeated. A and B is not going to trigger until 1 has been defeated. So by triggering that conversation point off of 3, we're guaranteed of ensuring that all the encounters have been dealt with. And with that, we're all set up to do a test run. So let's hop back over to maps and play map. See what happens. Alright, so we don't see anything, which is what we want. Over and talk to Mr. Ed. We only have the start fight option, which is what we want to see. And I saw the ogre spawn in the background there. Kill 1, he goes away. And I get the next encounter. They die. Third encounter comes up. Kill him. Now I can come back here and talk to Mr. Ed. And I don't have the start fight option, I have the all done option now. And that is the basics behind setting up encounter waves. So it really depends on, do you want them linked to the story? That's honestly the easiest way of doing it, but if not, just a little bit of clever use of appear when and disappear when linked to conversations, and component complete will get you what you need. Yeah, that was a nice quick one, so until the next video.